Oh, you thought they forgot about you. You thought they moved on, didn't you? That time did what it usually does. Smoothed the edges, quieted the echoes, turned you into a footnote in someone else's memory. You assumed your name stopped surfacing once you left the room, once you stopped showing up, once you chose distance over explanation. But here's the part nobody tells you. People don't forget presence, they forget convenience. And you were never convenient. You were something else, something that lingered. You walked through different chapters of their lives without making a spectacle of yourself. No grand exits, no dramatic speeches, no need to announce what you were. You just showed up as you were, calm, fully there, and somehow that was enough to leave marks people still don't know how to explain. They remember you in fragments at first, a conversation they still replay, a moment where they felt strangely seen, a silence that felt heavier than most words. They don't always attach your name to it right away. Sometimes it takes years. Sometimes it shows up when they meet someone new, and sometimes it hits when they're lying awake at night, realizing something in their life feels shallow, unfinished, performative. That's when you surface not as nostalgia, not as regret in the dramatic sense, but as a reference point, as a quiet comparison they never meant to make, as the unspoken standard that crept in without permission. People from completely different phases of your life describe you in almost the same way, even though they never spoke to each other. A former friend, a coworker, someone who only knew you briefly, someone who thought you were just passing through. They struggle to put it into clean language. They hesitate. They say things like, "There was just something about them," or "They were intense, but not in a loud way," or "I don't know why I still remember them." What they mean is this: you made them feel more aware than they were comfortable being. You didn't do it by pushing. You didn't do it by preaching. You didn't do it by demanding anything from them. You did it by existing without pretending, by not diluting your thoughts to make them easier to swallow, by not shrinking your insight to protect other people's egos, by asking questions you genuinely wanted answers to, by listening in a way that made it hard for them to lie to themselves. That kind of presence is unsettling to people who survive by staying surface level. At first, they underestimate you. Almost everyone does. You don't announce yourself. You don't force attention. You don't dominate space. You don't need to. You let people reveal themselves. You let them talk. You let them posture. You let them perform. And while they assume you're passive, compliant, or simply unaware, you're actually observing patterns. They don't realize they're repeating. They interrupt you, thinking you won't mind. They talk over you, assuming you'll wait your turn. They take credit, assuming you won't challenge it. They dismiss your depth as too much because it's easier than admitting they don't want to go there. And you let them think whatever they need to think. Not because you can't respond, but because you don't need to. That's the part that confuses them later. In hindsight, they realize you weren't silent because you had nothing to say. You were silent because you were paying attention. You were cataloging behavior. You were learning how people move when they think no one is really watching. And then something happens. Not all at once, not dramatically. You stop leaning in. You stop over-explaining. You stop offering access to people who only ever wanted your energy, not your presence. You stop adjusting yourself to fit rooms that never made space for you, and from the outside, it looks like you faded, like you disengaged, like you became distant. From the inside, it felt like alignment. That's when the memory sharpens for them. That's when your absence starts doing more work than your presence ever did. Because now there's no version of you left to project onto. No access to misunderstand. No opportunity to reduce you to something. They replay old interactions, searching for the moment they missed, the moment they misread, the moment they assumed too much and listened too little. They realize you weren't intense because you wanted control. You were intense because you were paying attention. You weren't difficult because you wanted conflict. You were difficult because you refused to stay shallow. Some of them pulled away because growth felt like pressure, because being around you made it harder to justify staying exactly the same. You didn't criticize their choices. You didn't shame them for settling. But your clarity made their compromises louder in their own head. And instead of rising to meet that discomfort, they labeled you as too much and created distance. Others stayed longer, tried to match you, tried to meet you where you were. And even they admit now quietly that you changed the way they think, the way they connect, the way they measure honesty. They find themselves comparing conversations, relationships, entire environments to what it felt like to be around you. Not because you were perfect, but because you were real in a way they don't encounter often. You became a turning point without trying to be one. That's the strange. You never set out to be unforgettable. You never tried to leave an impression. You weren't building a legacy. You were just being yourself in spaces that weren't designed for that level of presence. And systems built on comfort don't know what to do with people who bring clarity instead. So they talk about you in vague terms. They say things like, "That person was different," or "They had depth," or "They made me think." They don't always like the feeling that comes with remembering you. It reminds them of versions of themselves they didn't follow through on. Questions they avoided, growth they postponed. You weren't a warning. You were a mirror. And mirrors are uncomfortable when someone isn't ready to look. What's important is this. You didn't stay. You didn't linger to be understood. You didn't demand recognition for the impact you had. You moved on when it became clear that being fully yourself required distance. That your energy was being consumed, not met. That your presence was being tolerated, not respected. Now, from where you stand, you don't need to know who still thinks about you or why. You don't need confirmation. You don't need closure. You don't need to be remembered correctly by everyone who crossed your path. You know who you were. You know what you brought. And you know why you left. And somewhere, quietly, in conversations you're not part of. In memories people didn't plan to revisit. Your name still carries weight. Not as power. Not as fear. But as depth. As clarity. As something that couldn't be reduced or replaced. You were never trying to be unforgettable. You were just unwilling to be shallow. And that's the kind of presence people don't move on from easily. And here's the part that matters now. The part that only makes sense once you've stepped far enough away to see the pattern clearly. You don't feel the pull anymore. Not the urge to explain yourself. Not the itch to correct their misunderstandings. Not the need to soften yourself so your memory feels easier for them to hold. Whatever they remember about you, whatever story they tell themselves to make sense of the impact you had, it no longer belongs to you. Because somewhere along the way, you stopped carrying other people's interpretations as a responsibility. That didn't happen overnight. It came after realizing how often depth gets punished in environments built on speed and surface. How often clarity gets reframed as intensity when it refuses to stay quiet. How frequently people label what they can't access. You saw the pattern repeat enough times to finally trust it. And once you trusted it, you stopped negotiating with it. That's why you don't feel haunted by the past the way they do. For them, memory loops. For you, memory integrates. You took what mattered, learned what needed learning, and moved forward without dragging the emotional residue behind you. You didn't harden. You didn't become closed. You just became selective. And selectivity looks cold to people who benefited from your openness. They wonder how you did it, how you moved on without bitterness, how you detached without cruelty, how you managed to leave rooms quietly and still leave an echo. They assume there must be some secret process. some internal switch you flipped. But the truth is simpler than that. You stopped forcing connection where resonance didn't exist. You stopped translating yourself for people who preferred convenience over understanding. You stopped investing energy in environments that required you to be less than you are to belong. That's not disappearance. That's discernment. And the irony is, once you stopped trying to be understood, you became unforgettable in a different way. Not because you demanded space in their mind, but because you stopped occupying it on their terms. The absence of explanation is what keeps their curiosity alive. The lack of closure is what makes your presence linger. Not out of manipulation, out of contrast. You showed them a version of connection that wasn't transactional. A version of attention that didn't come with hooks. A version of honesty that didn't need to dominate to be felt. And when that disappeared from their daily life, they noticed the difference. Not immediately, not consciously, but eventually. They try to recreate it sometimes, with new people, new jobs, new environments, and it almost works until it doesn't, until the conversation stays shallow, until the insight feels borrowed instead of lived, until the reflection never quite reaches the same depth. That's when your name surfaces again, not spoken, just felt. And you're not offended by that. You don't take it as proof of superiority. You understand something now that you didn't before. Impact doesn't require permanence. Depth doesn't need longevity. Sometimes you're meant to pass through, not settle. Sometimes your role is to disrupt the narrative just enough for someone else to realize they've been living too small. But here's the part they don't always see. You paid for that awareness, not with drama, but with loneliness, with moments where being fully yourself meant standing alone, with choices that looked like withdrawal from the outside, but felt like survival on the inside. You didn't leave because you didn't care. You left because you cared enough not to betray yourself, and that's why you're at peace now. You don't wonder who still talks about you. You don't scan rooms for recognition. You don't measure your worth by how deeply you were missed. You measure it by how aligned you feel when you wake up in the morning, by how little you need to perform to be accepted in the spaces you choose. Now, by how natural it feels to exist without editing yourself. That's what changed. You learned that being too much is often just being too real for systems that rely on numbness. That intensity isn't a flaw when it's paired with self-awareness. That depth doesn't need an audience to be valid. And most importantly, that being remembered is not the same thing as being free. You chose freedom. So when they think about you now, they do it from a distance you're no longer trying to close. When they describe you as unforgettable, intense, difficult to replace, they're speaking from a chapter you've already finished reading. You don't correct the language. You don't refine the narrative. You let them keep whatever version helps them make sense of what they felt, because you're not here to be understood by everyone. You're here to be aligned with yourself. And if that means being remembered as too much by people who needed you to be less, so be it. You're no longer interested in shrinking to fit stories you didn't write. You're not interested in re-entering spaces that only valued you once you were gone. You're not interested in being a reference point for people who never wanted to meet you at your depth while you were present. What matters now is that you recognize the pattern before it repeats. That you choose environments where your presence doesn't feel like disruption, but contribution. That you invest in connections where depth is met with depth, not discomfort. That you honor the version of yourself who learned quietly and carefully when to stay and when to leave. And there's something else, something subtle but important. The people who remember you most intensely are often the ones who were closest to growth and turned away. You don't take that personally anymore. You understand that not everyone is ready to see themselves clearly. Not everyone wants a mirror. Some people prefer reflections that flatter rather than reveal. You stop trying to be palatable to those people. That's why your energy feels different now, calmer, more grounded, less concerned with being impactful and more committed to being authentic. You don't walk into rooms wondering how you'll be perceived. You walk into rooms aware of how you feel, and if the space doesn't match, you don't force it. You leave quietly, cleanly, without needing to be remembered kindly, and somehow, that's what stays with them the most. Not what you said, not what you did, but the way you left without collapsing. The way you chose yourself without explanation. The way you didn't chase understanding from people who weren't prepared to offer it. They thought being remembered was power. You learned that being aligned is, and as you move forward now, into spaces that haven't met you yet, you don't carry the weight of past impressions. You carry clarity. You carry boundaries that don't need to be announced. You carry a presence that doesn't ask permission to exist fully. If someone remembers you, that's their experience to process. If someone doesn't, that's fine too. You're not here to haunt the past. You're here to live the present without compromise. And whatever echoes remain behind you, they fade on their own terms. Hey, gorgeous. Did you seriously think you knew him? Or were you blind all along? Imagine this. The person you lifted, the one you helped, was sitting on billions? Yeah, billions. And you had no idea. Crazy, right? But here's the kicker. It's not just a shock. It's a lesson. You see, most people live in the shadows, being ignored, dismissed, forgotten. But not you. You're different. You noticed. You cared. You acted. And that's why you're still here, still hungry, still awake. And that's why this video, yeah, it's for you. Only for the ones ready to see the truth, to wake up and step into a new level. By the end, you're not just gonna know, you're gonna feel it. Every moment of doubt, every time someone looked past you, every silent struggle you endured, it's all about to flip upside down. And guess what? I want you to comment on your story below. Share your fire, let the world see your grind, your hunger, your rise. Watch every second. Because skipping, that's how you miss the part that changes everything. You're not just an audience, you're the energy, the rebellion, the pulse of this video. This one's a tribute to you, the overlooked, underestimated, the ones who refuse to settle. Now stick around, pay attention, and get ready. What you think you knew about people, about power, about life, is about to explode. And trust me, by the end, you'll see the world differently. And maybe, just maybe, start bending it your way. They smiled at you, pretended to see you, pretended to care. But their eyes slid past, like glass over a storm. You carried their weight, lifted their dreams, sweated in silence while they laughed in their comfortable bubbles. And you thought it mattered, but it never did. The world thrives on the unseen, the overlooked, the ones who bleed quietly. They measure your worth in convenience. Your value is a shadow. You give, you bend, you obey, and they leave every single time. And you nod, you apologize. You say, it's okay, while the fire inside curls like smoke around your ribs. Invisible chains are heavier than iron. You feel them when no one is watching. When your stomach knots at opportunity slipping past, when your hands are empty, but your mind is full of sacrifices no one notices. The shame is exquisite, delicious even. They push you, dismiss you, and call it normal. And you swallow it again and again, thinking maybe someday they'll see. But what they never tell you is that this is the forge. Pain is the hammer, rejection is the anvil. Every insult you swallow hammers your spirit into something sharper, something that can cut through the noise. The chains, they are not the end, they are the blueprint. The weight you carry will teach you how to throw it back, with precision, with fury, with laughter. Look at them now, comfortable in their illusions, oblivious to the storms and people they discarded. You could scream, you could rage, you could break, or you could watch, study, learn, and let the quiet anger grow, spiral, coil. It whispers, promises power. It tells you that being ignored is an advantage no one else understands. Chains are not punishment. Chains are patience. They teach the unseen how to wait, how to observe, how to strike. One day, the world will remember your name. One day, the hand that held them up will crush what held it down. And in that moment, you won't feel satisfaction. You'll feel inevitability. The invisible chains will snap, and you will stand laughing in the ruins. The hand you lifted held more than you knew, more than you imagined, more than you deserved to see. You smiled. You helped. You believed it was small, ordinary. But behind the calm, there was a kingdom waiting. Quiet, patient, lurking in plain sight. And you were blind. They never told you their power. They never flaunted it. They let you believe the story you wanted to hear. Every favor you gave, every second you wasted, you thought it was kindness. You thought it was human, but it was strategy. Every act of help, a thread in a web you didn't see forming, and now it pulses, waiting. Imagine the weight of that truth, the realization that the one you lifted could have crushed you, that the world you served silently was theirs to command, and you had no idea. Every moment of labor, every sacrifice, every nod and smile, invisible currency. And they were counting it all, watching, calculating, smiling. The world is a theater of masks. The quietest man, the humblest voice, sometimes the most dangerous player. You didn't see it. You couldn't see it. And that's why the shock cuts so deep. It's not betrayal, not exactly. It's revelation. The truth that everyone has a hidden weight, everyone has a hidden fire, and most of us, we never see it coming. You feel it, don't you? That prickling in your chest, that bitterness, that spark of envy, that delicious sting of why not me? They thrive in silence while the world applauds the obvious. They move while everyone else waits. And you were their audience, not their equal. But here's the secret. Audience can become king. One choice, one strike, one moment of chaos. And so you learn, you observe, you record, you swallow the shock, and you turn it over in your mind like a blade. The invisible empire they held becomes a lesson, a map, a whisper in the dark. You helped a giant without knowing it, and now you understand. The world doesn't hand power to those who deserve it. It hands power to those who recognize it, who see it, who wait for the perfect moment to claim it. Some wear masks so well, even their reflection lies. They smile, they nod, they whisper, "I'm nothing," and everyone believes them. The quiet ones, the ones who shuffle in the corners, they hide storms behind their calm. And you never saw it coming. Mediocrity is a costume worn to lull the world into comfort. They pretend weakness, they pretend doubt, they pretend failure, and the crowd applauds. They never suspect the fire simmering under those thin skins, the subtle, quiet hunger that waits, the storm waiting to rip through everything you thought you knew. You think you know someone. You think you've measured their strength. But appearances are tools. They are lies dressed in flesh. You helped the silent, the overlooked, the nothing, who carried galaxies behind their eyes. And the moment they remove the mask, you'll understand how blind you've been, how foolish, how deliciously naive. The mask isn't just for hiding. It's for sharpening. It's for learning. The quiet ones, the ignored, the underestimated, they watch, they absorb. Every laugh at their expense becomes fuel. Every eye that slides past them, another brick in their empire. And the world thinks they are nothing, until they aren't. Do you feel the itch yet? That small anger twisting in your chest? That thrill that bites like ice? That's the first taste of clarity. The mask fools the world, but it doesn't fool the wearer. And when they finally rise, when they finally step from behind the false face, the world will feel the impact of every second it dismissed them. So look around. Study the quiet. Watch the ones you think are weak. Count their steps. Notice the patience in their eyes, the way they move without care. Someday, someone will remove their mask. And when they do, chaos will follow. Because what the world calls mediocrity is just the calm before domination. If you are full, the world ignores you. It walks past you like you are air. Only the hungry are seen. Only the ones clawing, scraping, bleeding for more get noticed. That itch in your chest, that fire in your gut, that's not weakness. That's survival screaming at you. Hunger isn't polite. Hunger doesn't ask permission. It gnaws at bones. It keeps you awake at night. It whispers truths no one else dares speak. The world hands out crumbs to the patient, but the hungry take everything, and they take it without apology. Look at your life. Every time someone got ahead of you, every time someone ignored you, every time your effort vanished in their comfort, that was the spark, that sting, that taste of rage. And rage, properly honed, is more useful than talent, more lethal than luck, more intoxicating than praise. The hunger teaches clarity. It cuts illusions in half. It shows you the liars, the pretenders, the fools who think safety is strength. You realize how much of your life you gave to shadows, to walls, to people who never understood your teeth. And now you understand. Hunger is the weapon. Hunger is the map. Hunger is the knife you carry quietly in your chest. You see, the world loves the full, the fed, the complacent. They sleep, they repeat, they celebrate mediocrity. But you are awake. You are restless. You feel every loss like a firebrand. You remember every slight, every invisible shove. And you know, one day, that hunger will be more than memory. It will be motion, it will be violence, it will be glory. So embrace it. Let it bite. Let it tear at you until your veins hum. Let it whisper in your ear that what you want, what you deserve, will not be given. It must be taken. It must be claimed. And when you strike, it will feel like the world is finally bending to your will, because hunger never forgives. Hunger never forgives. Hunger never fails. Your real enemy isn't outside, it's inside. The whispers, the doubts, the part of you that says stop, the voice that says you can't, that shadow in your mind that laughs while you stumble. That's the battlefield. That's where wars are lost before the world even notices. Every fear you hide, every hesitation you swallow, every excuse you cradle like a fragile child. It grows teeth, it bites, it claws, it keeps you small, weak, invisible. And the world doesn't wait for courage. It rewards action. It rewards audacity. It rewards the one who refuses to bend under the weight of their own mind. The war is constant. It's relentless. It doesn't pause. It doesn't negotiate. Some days it screams. Some nights it whispers. Every failure is amplified. Every regret is sharpened. And every moment you fight back, every second you stare into that darkness, you carve a path that no one else sees. But here's the trick. The part they never tell you. The invisible war is the teacher. It shows your weakness. It exposes your cracks. It strips away comfort. And in the ruin, in the chaos, you find clarity. You find precision. You find yourself. The part of you that isn't afraid to rise when the world writes you off. Do you feel it yet? That tension coiling in your chest. That itch behind your eyes that makes sleep unbearable? That's not suffering. That's preparation. Every doubt, every fear, every crushing expectation is ammunition. Every inner battle you survive is a blade forged for the outside world. So fight it. Embrace it. Dance with it in silence. Let it tear at you. Let it sharpen you. Let it remind you that the true war, the only war that matters, is the one that no one else can see. And when you step out, when you strike, the world will shiver because it never fought a mind like yours before. Every hand that leaves you, every back that turns, is a gift. You think it's loss. You think it's pain. You think it's proof the world is cruel. But betrayal is the most exquisite teacher. It cuts. It burns. It reshapes. And if you are smart, it makes you lethal. They smile. They promise. They whisper loyalty. And then they vanish. Every broken trust, every abandoned plan, every whispered lie becomes fuel. The fire you thought was dying is raging. It twists, it sharpens, it teaches you to see the hidden patterns, the quiet agendas, the intentions no one else notices. Anger is currency. Disappointment is wealth. Every slight you swallow, every insult that curls in your stomach, it accumulates. It doesn't disappear. It waits. It sharpens. It reminds you that the world is always taking notes, and the world always owes its debts. And when you strike, it will be precise. It will be brilliant. It will be chaotic. You've been dismissed. You've been ignored. You've been used. And that's the point. That is exactly why you are learning faster than they ever could. Betrayal isn't punishment. It is alchemy. It turns weakness into strength. It turns heartbreak into armor. It turns doubt into strategy. And the one who masters it dominates. Feel the thrill. Yet, that delicious itch of revenge without action. The satisfaction that waits in shadows. You can let it eat you, or you can let it carve you into something sharper than anyone imagined. You can watch the world celebrate mediocrity and know that when your moment comes, it will be obliterating. So treasure it. Cherish the betrayals. Catalog the abandonments. Let them fuel you. Let them twist through your mind like knives. And one day, every hand that left, every smile that lied, every whisper of betrayal will bow before the storm you became. Because the alchemy of betrayal is power beyond their comprehension. Wealth isn't money. It's control, timing, knowing who fears you without ever saying a word. The quiet ones, the nothing people, they see what others miss. They move in silence while the world blunders in noise. And that's how kingdoms are built. Power hides in patience. It grows in shadows. It thrives in people who wait, who watch, who measure every step before striking. You think you're too small. You think you're unnoticed. But that's exactly the advantage. The overlooked see everything. The silent know every secret, every weakness, every lie. They read the room like it's a map. Every gesture, every word, every hesitation, it is data. The rich, the powerful, the quiet giants. They are surgeons. They cut carefully, slowly, invisibly. You helped one once. You didn't know it. You thought it was ordinary. But ordinary hides monsters waiting to rise. Influence is a shadow game. You can speak, shout, scream, and achieve nothing. Or you can wait, listen, learn, move when no one expects it. They don't teach this in schools. They don't talk about it in offices. But the moment you see it, you understand why some people bend the world to their will, while the rest stumble through crumbs. And it's not cruelty. It's precision. It's artistry. Every step measured. Every sacrifice accounted for. Every smile calculated. They make decisions that ripple silently. You only see the effects later. You only feel the tremor after the empire is already theirs. That is the secret. Quiet observation, ruthless patience, invisible dominance. So, here we are. The truth is out. The mask is gone and you see it now. Everything you thought you knew about people, about power, about who holds it, is upside down. Crazy, right? But that's the point. The world hides secrets, and only the ones who watch, wait, and learn survive. You've felt the hunger, the rage, the fire building inside. That restless energy, it's yours. Don't let it fade. Don't let anyone dismiss it, because what you've discovered today, what you've absorbed, is the blueprint for the next level. And trust me, the world doesn't hand this out lightly. Now, I need you. Yeah, you. Drop a comment below. Tell me your story, your struggle, your grind. Let the world know you're awake, you're watching, and you're not just a bystander. Hit that like button if this shook you, and share this with someone who needs to see it.